You must be familiar with fantasy aesthetics such as dark fantasy, high fantasy, sword and sorcery, folkloric, and flintlock fantasy. All these are fantasy aesthetics that appear time and time again in old fantasy tales and even in the new contemporary fantasy literature and film. But the canon of popular fantasy aesthetics, built on European templates, has no natural place for African fantasy. What I mean is that no African fantasy tale fits neatly into any of these aesthetics. Hello, friend. Welcome to my channel, where I help writers get the right material to help them create unique and authentic African fantasy. African fantasy aesthetics exist in parallel to European coded fantasy. But before we discuss African fantasy aesthetics, we need to look at some of the most common elements of European or Western fantasy aesthetics. These elements include grand palaces and medieval European castles in the middle of nowhere. Good magic is represented by the color white or bright light, while evil is represented by the color black or darkness. Kings and knights, good versus bad spirits, general architecture borrowed from medieval Europe, ancient Greece, and Rome, cobbled streets and whimsical people, evil armies led by witches that serve a dark lord. Most of these ideas are borrowed from ancient Greeks, Celts, and from the centuries-old Roman Catholic Christianity that influenced Europe for centuries. For example, contemporary European fantasy classifies actions or people into two rigid opposing categories, such as good or evil, right or wrong, saint or sinner. This rigid classification is called binary morality and is often associated with Christianity. But traditional European fantasy has numerous characters that do not fit into the binary morality categorization, such as the Celtic gods from Northern Europe, Baba Yaga from Eastern Europe, and the Green Knight from the British Isles. So, I dare say, and I could be wrong, that binary morality is a Christian influence on European fantasy rather than the other way around. Before we put a spotlight on Africa, I must define what I mean by fantasy aesthetics. In simple terms, fantasy aesthetics is the visual style used in the clothing, weaponry, architecture, and magic. In Europe, most of the visual aesthetics are borrowed from the medieval world. But in Africa, fantasy aesthetics remain undefined, which is a very exciting situation for any writer who wants to explore new ideas. There is no immovable rule or storytelling pattern that limits how imaginative you can be when constructing aesthetics for African fantasy. Africa has tons of traditional aesthetics that fit so neatly in the African landscape that it is difficult to imagine them located anywhere else on Earth. For each specific aesthetic, we will look at the architecture, clothing and fashion, materials and technology, color palette and light, and the magical systems. So, here are the top African fantasy aesthetics. Number 1 is Sahelian fantasy aesthetics. When you're thinking about Sahelian architecture, consider red brick architecture in the style used in Timbuktu, Senegal, and Burkina Faso. You can embellish the architecture without losing its identity, just as is done with European fantasy architecture. Clothing and fashion consists mainly of indigo robes with intricate patterns, gold jewelry with elaborate designs, leather boots or sandals, wide-brimmed hats, and more. Hairstyles range from elaborate cornrows, dreadlocks, and short hair. You can also include tattoos and henna. Let your imagination go wild with the clothing. You won't be disappointed. Materials and technology include weaving looms, gold, iron, bronze, clay pots, wood, universities, and horses. Since Sahelian fantasy is in the desert or arid regions of Africa, the right color palette is reds, browns, beige, metallic gold, and the light could be evening sunlight or bright noon sunlight. What do you think? Magical systems are mysterious and tied to the spirits and ancestors, which you will notice is the case with other African fantasy aesthetics. Don't leave out the witches, gods, oracles, and astrologers. Number two is the Congo and tropical West Africa aesthetics. Here, you're thinking of landscapes in tropical forests, green valleys, rivers, and wild beasts lurking in the dark. So, the architecture should be based on the engineering masterpieces similar to the ancient thatched palaces of the Faun in Cameroon, the earthen palaces of Benin and Ghana, the great marbles of Benin. Clothing and fashion can be varied here, from colorful patterned robes of Cameroon, kente fabric of Ghana, animal hide clothes, wooden masks, leopard skin, colorful beaded jewelry, elaborate carved walking canes, gold jewelry, and more. Hairstyles include a clean shaven look, dreadlocks, elaborate cornrows, and scarification. You also have tattoos and henna designs in some areas. The color palette is green, yellow, red, gold, and blue. The lighting can be bright and colorful to capture the beauty of the rainforest and green plains, or dark blue to capture the mysterious nature of the dark parts of the forests. What do you think? Materials and technology include iron spears, weaving looms, gold, ceremonial swords, walking canes, arrows, and more. Magical systems can be spirits, shamans, river gods, taboos, oaths, evil eye, curses, witches, oracles, and spirits of the ancestors. You also have medicine men and secret societies with headquarters deep in the forest. All these are drawn from Anansi the spider tales, Mami Water spirit imagery, and the masked festivals of the Ekpo and the Gelede of the Niger Delta. Number three is Horn of Africa, sword and sorcery. Your inspiration here is the ancient cities of the East African coast, Sudan, and Ethiopia. The buildings are made of stone, red bricks, red earth, mud, and grass thatch. They have fortresses to protect from invaders and obelisks that symbolize a king's achievement and status. Clothing and fashion is similar to the Sahelian aesthetic to some extent. You have leopard skins, animal hides, skirts, minimal jewelry made of beads, robes, cloaks, and more. They may also have silk and china because of the trade with people from the sea. The color palette ranges from red and dark browns, white, green, blue, and gold. Remember that this is a region that includes a massive chunk of Northeast Africa, so a lot may have been left out. Materials and technology include carved swords, spears, gold, iron, bronze, stone, arrows, and more. Magical systems can involve sea gods, spirits on the savannah and plateaus, gods and demigods, sorcerers, witches, oracles, mountain spirits, river spirits, and more. Number 4, North African and Sudanic aesthetics. Now, for North Africa and Sudan, the mud and stone architecture may include pyramids, grand temples, tombs, and giant statues. For clothing, think of linen fabrics, gowns, skirts, feathers, animal hide, and sandals. They also wore brass amulets, silver, and gold jewelry. The color palette is white, silver, beige, indigo blue, wood, red, and yellow. Materials and technology include spears, chariots, gold, iron, arrows, and more. The magical system consists of gods and demigods, sorcery, priests or oracles, witches, and spirits. While I would love to spend more time exploring North African aesthetics, I will move on because they are the most common aesthetics in mainstream media and Hollywood compared to the others on this list. Number 5, East and Southern Africa fantasy aesthetics. Now, think of large herds of cattle, Vast savanna plains, deserts, tropical forests, highland forests, mountains, and beautiful white beaches. The landscape here is breathtaking, and with it come numerous possibilities for fantasy writers. As far as architecture is concerned, think of the Kasumbi tombs of Uganda, the stone ruins of Great Zimbabwe and Southern Africa, the painted huts of the Ndembele, stone-hedged homesteads, forts, lost stone cities on the coast such as Gedi, and more. Clothing and fashions include leopard skin, feathers, grass cuts, bark cloth, beaded tunics, bronze and iron jewelry, white robes, tattoos, henna, scarification, red ochre body paint, white body paint, and more. The hairstyles are amazing here. You have elaborate cornrows, sister lock bobs bathed in red ochre, normal dreadlocks, different haircuts, twists, dreadlock bobs, and thick locks. They also wear flamboyant headpieces made of leather, feather plumes, colorful beads, horns, and even metal. You can go wild with the magical systems here because you have mountain gods, river spirits, ancestors, sorcerers, witches, seers, ogres, water creatures, and oracles. Some of what you see in the Congo and West African aesthetics applies here too. And there you have it. I have tried to break it down, but as you know, Africa is a big continent, and I'm sure there are many aspects that I haven't included here. Maybe I will make a series of videos explaining each African aesthetic. What do you think? I hope you liked the video. Please click the like button, subscribe, and share because it helps with the YouTube algorithm. Goodbye and good luck.